Bart Rademaker. This is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. And this is something I've been doing for the last 5 years because I really wanted to capture the authentic voices of all those wonderful people out there that really can help us transform our lives. Finding that peak performance that really has evaded us and finding out what gets us unstuck. And so I'm really excited to meet Kameka Smith. I met her on Clubhouse. What a wonderful platform to share all the wisdom around the world. Which we had this about 5 years ago when I started. But I'd love to be talking to her today because she has a technology, if you will, for rapid transformation. It's a very unique kind of technology that you have to be specially certified so that you can get unstuck. And I'm super excited to be talking to Kameka today to find out how she can actually help you transform your life rapidly. Kameka, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me here today. Happy to be here.
Thank you, thank you. So you mentioned something, before we started, a very important word in my vocabulary, and that is freedom. See, I'm one of those freedom junkies. I love my freedom in so many ways. So I must be like a star seed or something because I think of myself in the space all the time. But you know what it is that, you know, I talk a lot about the human experience and giving ourselves permission to be human, but the problem is that we get stuck with so many misconceptions that we've, acquired over the years. And so that's what you do with people. That's what you help with people is getting unstuck and finding the freedom. So share with us, your magic so that others can find you.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me here. And I'll start out with a perfect example, which is a recent lady I worked with. And she said to me, I feel trapped. And I don't know what it is. I know I've been through a lot of trauma. I know I had a traumatic birth, but I feel trapped and I feel like I'm in this space. Life is happening. I'm just existing. I'm exhausted and I don't know what's driving me.
Right.
And so being able, and the satisfaction for me, this is why I do what I do right now and why I'm so passionate about it. The satisfaction for me was taking her back to the first thing that she went back to. She was a baby. She's just born in ICU in one of those little box things that they put the babies in. And just the emotion that came from that, and just see how directly your mind knows exactly what's driving her to be able to get to that quickly and realizing that's where she's been stuck. She's still stuck as being a baby, and being able to give her that freedom to get out of the box and recognize that I'm not that anymore. I don't have to be in this little box. I can be free to be myself, to be authentic, and to be true is just remarkable. And it's why I love to do what I do.
No, that's amazing. You know, with traditional medicine, we learn about psychoanalysis, and I know that it would take years with investigating these kinds of experiences that are so hard to get a hold of. So clearly, right, you've got a rapid way you can bypass all of that, all the old teachings. But I want to ask you a question first. And when it comes down to that trauma that happened when she was born, you know what's really happening, how does it become so traumatic for that person, at the birth time, right, that we get stuck with it? I mean, what do you have particular thoughts about that or teachings on that?
Sure, absolutely. So from 0 to 7 is our infant period, right? And so a lot of times, sometimes I find as well where people, even with me, I'll say, "Hey, I remembered something from 2 years old." Like, no, you didn't.
Mm,
But it's right there. It's all in your mind. And so as kids, we create beliefs, and our conditioning happens based on our family, or environment, or culture, religion, or school. There's so many things that we form beliefs. And using that lady for example, is in that moment she's thinking, I'm just not good enough. Like, maybe I shouldn't be here. I'm a burden. I'm an intrusion. And you find that a lot of time when it's, as kids, we form beliefs based on the limited knowledge and that we know just being on earth, and being able to find ways to process and relate. And what happens is that those beliefs stick with us and continue to drive us. And just like we need to update our phones every time there's an update, or update our computer, we need to recode our minds the same way. And a lot of times we don't know how or don't know that we need to do it.
I say something very, very similar to my clients, and it's basically, we have we've acquired a software program, with an immature brain, right? In fact, I mean, when you think about it intuitively or innately, our thinking processes are symbolic. And so obviously, baby doesn't have language, but they have symbols.
Yeah,
And then they translate that into language later on. And so what we need to do is as you said, we need to recode, reprogram these misconceptions. That,
yeah,
and we talk about victimization in the world today, and I say, well, the real victim is victim of misconceptions of things that your beliefs, as you put it, that don't serve us today. So
absolutely.
so share with us what's that process, because clearly, I mean, sometimes we get really hung up with our beliefs. We they're so strong. It's a hard time for us to let them go. So how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share a hack from a conscious level. And this is, one of the things I've learned from Larissa Peer. She's a top UK therapist. On the conscious level, I literally have a magic wand when a client comes to me. And when you get to that question, what do you want? People struggle with that question. So a lot of times it's like, okay, I feel stuck in my business. I don't know where I need to go. Okay, let's recognize what you're thinking and feeling now, because your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings create your action. But really shifting that to, what do I want to think instead? And a lot of times you find people say, I don't want to be stressed. I don't want this. But what do you want? And so shifting that thought process into, I want to be confident. I want to believe that what I have is value. I want to be happy. I want to be free. And just being able to recognize and say that, your feeling instantly change. Now, for much more in-depth things that you have to, of course, reprogram your mind, how that happens, it uses hypnotherapy. And so I've been trained in rapid transformation therapy with Larissa Peer. And the uniqueness of that is being able to literally take you back to a same place and time that has to do with why you feel anxiety, why you're depressed, why are you feeling stuck, or why you're having this addiction problem. And your mind knows, and doing it in a subconscious state, so it takes you right back to those things. But a magic happens is not just going to one scene, it's going to three or maybe four that really are daisy chained together to figure out, okay, well, in this scene, you're not feeling good enough. Let's figure out where you created this belief that you're not good enough. That takes you back to 2 years old. You were sitting there, your parents were doing something busy and you're sitting there, nobody's paying attention to me. I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough because they're not paying attention to me and not recognizing that, they're probably busy doing something. And then once taking them back to understand what's been driving them and have them do an analysis that, okay, this is what's been driving you from 2 years old. How is that impacting you in your life right now? And that understanding is what gives them the power and the freedom, being able to have that dialogue subconsciously. And then what I'll do with them is reframe that for them, upgrade that inner child, and give that child the love that the child deserves. And then give them a phenomenal transformation that they'll listen to for 21 days to rewire that in subconsciously.
Oh wow. Okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So all of this is redone, consciously then for the most part. Would you say?
Well, so the second part is subconscious. So I take you into hypnosis,
Uh,
and then we have that dialogue subconsciously.
oh wow. Okay. So
Because sometimes what we find is that sometimes I talk to someone and I really just need to talk to them for 15 minutes before we get them into a subconscious state. But when I ask you, if I'm to ask you consciously now, why do you think you procrastinate? You will give me a reason. I procrastinate because, I don't like doing that stuff. But when I ask you that question subconsciously, it goes to a specific scene or thought or incident that created this belief for you, which may not be what you were thinking or may not be that you even remember.
so let me ask you this question, because a lot of people have a misconception about, hypnotherapy.
Yeah,
And so obviously if someone is going to go into hypnotherapy, they can't be resistant to it, right? Now, what if somebody is resistant? I mean, do you have a process by which you allow them to be more comfortable with that process?
So for what I do as a partnership,
Hmm.
if someone is resistant and not wanting to do it, I can't help them.
Right.
And the reason for that is it's not me doing it to you. I'm your subconscious guide. And so you have to be willing to be able to pull up that memory. What I do is make you, if you are having some kind of misconceptions and feeling a little bit uncomfortable with it or feeling a little bit vulnerable, then
Hmm.
what I'll do is walk through a hypnotic relaxation exercise where I'll take them to your favorite place that you like to relax or a vacation that you always wanted, that you see pictures on, that you wanted to go. And so being able to have that and reminding them that it's just like you're, um, you're just waking up in the morning and you're in that little groggy state. Or if you're driving and you notice you're driving, you didn't remember you making that left turn. That's hypnosis. And so it's not, I'm doing something to you or I'm going to make you fall in love with a column or something. But recognizing that you know what's happening. I'm going to be having a dialogue in with you because I'm going to ask you what you see and feel and experiencing. And so that usually gets them comfortable
Right.
once they actually go through that.
I know you're a master practitioner or trainer in neurolinguistic programming like myself. And, one thing for the audience to listen to understand is that, the unconscious mind is what we call a highly moral being. And it's the morality that you learn and accept it as true. And so you're never going to do anything that violates that morality. So we're always safe. And I
Yeah.
can share with you that I had my trepidation of hypnotherapy at one point when I was in training, and they did a group, hypnotherapy with about 50 of us, and I resisted, and I finally succumbed at the very end. And it was interesting for me because it didn't violate my morals or my beliefs. So, it's a neat process. I want to share with you an interesting experience that I had, and I went through a course, a master's course in integrated energy healing, and we did a very similar process like you did. But it was different in the sense of it was more of an experiential process, and that taught me that it's exactly what you share with us. You have a trauma at a very young age. You made a certain meaning about it that carries throughout the rest of your life, affects how you do things. And what I then started doing for myself consciously is that when I exhibited a specific behavior, and I'm going to share one with you, and then maybe you'll have to treat me for that one. Um, and that was, um, so what I would do is when I would exhibit a behavior that I didn't like, that didn't serve me, then I kind of started to think, well, there must be a relationship somewhere in my youth that without needing to understand it, it's causing me to do this. So let's go ahead and change it anyhow. And one was, I would go to the store and buy all these amazingly healthy foods and fruits and vegetables and everything else, bring them home, and end up using, only a third of it. And so I'd have to throw away two-thirds of it, which is a real waste. And I kind of related to a past experience when I was a kid. And when I'm just guessing, I'm just imagining this. I don't actually have a real recollection of it. But I think one day I was bored and I pulled everything out of the fridge and all this food and had a great time and eating all these good foods because my parents were doing that and I wanted to emulate them. And then I got in trouble. And so now I go to the store, buy the stuff, and I don't use it. But anyhow, when it comes down to the RTT, right? So, how do you, as we're wrapping it up, share with the audience, what's that process? They meet with you, and then is it always in person or is it in Zoom? How does that work? And are there many sessions? And then you mentioned something about 21 days of audio.
Absolutely. So with rapid transformation therapy, essentially we will meet for a 30-minute, I call it a wow call, because really what it is, I really talk to you and restart with what's present for you. What is that presenting problem that you want to work through? And then I ask you a little bit of questions about how is that showing up for you? And then a little bit about your childhood. And then literally I'll pull up my what magic wand, what do you want instead? And once understanding what do you want instead, then I also want to understand. I want you to create a picture for me of what this life without that problem look like for you. And then we meet again, and this is on Zoom. I'm located in Houston, Texas, and so I occasionally do in person, but most of it is on Zoom, Skype, sometimes FaceTime. And when we meet for the session, we actually go through where I take you into hypnosis. Now I tell my clients you could lay in bed if you want to. I just need to be able to see you and to see your arms for the exercises that we'll do to get you into hypnosis, or to make sure that you know, because it's not for me, it's knowing that it's working for you. So take you into hypnosis, and then I'll take you to 3 or 4 scenes that has to do with that presenting problem. Then we'll go through the exercise of you doing the analysis and understanding. And I definitely am the therapist. I'll help you fill it in where I see it, but it's much more powerful because you're the expert of your life. So you analyze it. Then I'll go through, reframe it for you. If there is somebody who if it's traumatic where somebody may have hurt you, you have the opportunity in a subconscious state to be able to have that dialogue with that person. Because one of the key things a lot of the times, especially when it's trauma as a kid, is getting your power back and being able to voice that, especially when you're in a situation where you can't speak to that person about it, then being able to do that. Then doing a reframe where really reframe that for you, recognize that that's no longer a part of you, that's not you anymore. And then the last 20 minutes is where I create a transformation recording. And what is that stuff is all the good stuff that you want to be, what you want to think, what you want to feel, creating a vivid, vital picture, an exciting picture of what that is for you, to replace those beliefs that I record, and you listen to it for 21 days. And so usually for most of the conditions that we have that will take 20 years of therapy, I could fix it in 1 to 3 sessions.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm all about getting fast results and lasting, and I totally believe that that's possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how do people find you, Kameka?
So they could reach out to me at kamekaism.club or eclecticgeneration.com. And eclectic generation, there's another story behind that, but just briefly, I believe in creating an eclectic generation that is a mix of knowledge and people, to where everybody could connect. Building that connection with people by being able to transform yourself to not only be the person who you want to be, but to serve a purpose in the world. So eclecticgeneration.com is where you can find me, and all my information and being able to book your sessions are available there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is Prescription for Your Transformation. Real people, real conversations, and real success. And I'm all about optimizing our lives. I'm all about tapping into that authentic genius inside of us to be able to live the life that we desire. But you know what? Things just simply get in our way. And the truth is, we can't do it on our own. That's the reason we have this platform, so that you have gems of insights as to what you can incorporate in your life. But most importantly, find the gems of people like Kameka that can help you transform in a very quick manner. Kameka, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
And one last word, we will be back with 2 more sessions with Kameka, one about optimizing your life and to peak performance. And then once again, we'll be talking more in depth about RTT therapy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Dr. Rademaker's Prescription for Your Transformation. Continue the path towards discovering your own authentic genius by tuning in next time for more real conversations with real people.